Well, hello, nerds. Thank you for watching Generally Nerdy. This is the Week in Nerddom, your normally twice weekly source for all of the nerd news and music, TV, movies, gaming, comic books, and everything in between. This week's a little bit of an exception because Salt Lake Comic Con was over the weekend, so my schedule has been something of a mess. Everything is getting back on schedule, but this is your one episode this week. Thank you very much for joining me once again, and now let's hit up that intro. Hello, nerds. Thank you for watching Generally Nerdy. So, even though we haven't been here for over a week, the last episode exists. I just didn't have the time to edit it fully, so only the portions that got edited for Big Show and Nerdy Legion have been posted. My apologies. There wasn't a whole lot in that last episode, though, so that's why I felt like, I could take this extra time, edit it up completely, and post it, but it was already Monday, and we were doing research already for this episode, and so it just didn't happen. So my apologies. There is going to be a lot of stuff up from Salt Lake Comic-Con, so we will be seeing some cosplay music videos, we will be seeing another How to Comic-Con, Adventures in Photography, all of those fun things, and they're hopefully going to make it up in a more timely fashion than before, but again, I am the only person who does anything on this YouTube channel. I do not have a team. I do not have any help whatsoever. So it might take me a minute to get all that stuff up. But it is coming. I am working on it regularly. Whereas last year, I kind of had to do Week in Nerddom and had a job that got in the way and couldn't really work on it as regularly as I am this year. So last year took a little bit too long. This year, hopefully, will not be the case because I have a better job and so on and so forth. So that is the housekeeping we have. Let's jump into the music. And again, even though we haven't been here for a week, there's not a whole lot in a lot of this stuff. Matter of fact, we don't have any comic books news because I was kind of focusing on trying to cover the bigger sections. Comic books, there's some stuff happening, House of X, Powers of X, all that jazz, but the White Knight, they're all still in the middle of their runs, so there's not a whole lot of crazy that's coming out. There's not a whole lot to report on. No real crazy announcements from any of the significant comic book publishers and so on and so forth. So that just kind of lends itself to not having a comic book section. But we do have a music section, and that's what starts the show. So in music, we have the first thing is just kind of a fun bit. Rob Halford, the lead singer for Iron Maiden, for those of you who do not know, is putting out another Christmas record. That's right. Rob Halford put out a record called Winter Songs a few years back that is technically Christmas music, though I don't remember. I have the freaking record, but I can't remember if there's any traditional Christmas music or if it's all stuff that he wrote. Well, he's putting out another one called Celestial, and it will be out in October. And again, haven't a clue if he's putting any traditional Christmas music on there, if he's just writing music for the time and is doing all originals. So, interesting. I really love Christmas music during Christmas time. Let me be specific. Christmas music does not start until the day after Thanksgiving at the earliest. Thank you very much. Freaking retail we're moving on. Our only other big thing of note in music for right now is Tool. Tool's Fear Inoculum has taken the number one spot on the Billboard charts, has sold, I think the last number I saw was like 270,000 copies, of which about 250 were physical copies. That is unheard of in modern music. You do not sell that many records in your that many physical records in your first week. And people pop music fans are freaking out because Tool has dethroned Taylor Swift, which is kind of to be expected because Tool is kind of a force of nature at this point. Everything they do is amazing and gigantic, and so if you weren't expecting them to beat out Taylor Swift, or at least to take the number one spot on the Billboard charts, then I feel like you weren't paying attention, or you're just a crybaby millennial who wants everything the way you want it and not the way it actually works. So yeah, that's just really freaking awesome. That's all we have for music, though. Now let's jump into TV news, and trying to go back for 2 weeks, for a week and a half, I guess is more appropriate, worth of news and see. So we're about to get an overload of news, I feel like, because New York Comic-Con, just like we did with San Diego Comic-Con, New York Comic-Con is about to happen. I know I was just at Salt Lake, and that's the difference between Salt Lake, New York, and San Diego, because Salt Lake is probably the largest Comic-Con, effectively. Like, there's no better word for it. Salt Lake is the largest Comic-Con that doesn't break news, because even though Tom Holland was there, nothing was said about the Sony split, the Sony Marvel split, and like there really wasn't anybody else that was as relevant to the current conversation as Tom Holland. So no news was really broken. The only time that news has ever really been broken outside of San Diego, and actually, no, I take it back. No news has ever been broken at a Comic-Con that wasn't San Diego or New York. And change my mind. Like, that's my Steven Crowder moment, I feel like, because there's the movie theaters or the movie companies and the comic book companies and the TV companies and all of these companies that produce this content pay their people to go to San Diego and New York. They don't do that for any other of the conventions. The big conventions, Salt Lake again being the next largest one, the convention pays the celebrity to go and talk and be, hey, I'm famous, instead of, hey, I've got news. So that's the biggest difference. And there wasn't a whole lot of news that happened at Salt Lake. But since New York is coming up, there is going to be a whole lot of news, much like when San Diego happened like a month and a half ago or so. So yeah, it feels like everybody's just kind of holding on to their announcements so that they can make them at New York. So there wasn't as much as I thought there was going to be. That's kind of the long way of saying that. So let's jump right into it. First off, we have an update for the Wheel of Time series that we've been keeping tabs on. They have finally cast Alan Alan Mandragoran. That is the name that I was trying to say. They finally cast him. Daniel Henney has been cast. I mean, you can Google Daniel Henney. He's got some nerd cred. He's done some things. Next, we've got some more casting. I feel like a lot of this is casting, but there's some interesting casting to discuss here in just a moment. So, Umbrella Academy Season 2, we will be seeing the characters Lila, Raymond, and Sissy from the comics. So, the Lila will be played by Ritu Arya. Raymond will be played by Yusuf Gatewood. And Sissy, probably the one of the three with the most nerd credentials, will be played by Marin Ireland. Marin Ireland, again, I say the most relevant of the nerd credentials, has also been cast in the FX series for Y: The Last Man. So that's going to be quite the schedule for Miss Ireland. I'm super excited for Umbrella Season 2 because Umbrella Academy Season 1 is one of the greatest comic book series ever. Rivaled only by like The Boys and Doom Patrol. So that's I'm very interested. And also they're sharing casting with Y: The Last Man. let's see what happens. Next, we're talking, and this is probably one of the big ones. Next, we're talking about Hawkeye. Disney Plus is courting Hailee Steinfeld to play Kate Bishop, which arguably is going to be the title character. Now, let me explain that statement. So, in the MCU proper, they never call Hawkeye Hawkeye. Ever. They always call him by his name or by a nickname that isn't Hawkeye. The rumor is, and amongst the news outlets, they're saying that maybe Hailee Steinfeld is going to get her own spinoff. No, I feel like Jeremy Renner in this first season of Hawkeye is going to be passing the mantle, if you will, over to this new person, be it Hailee Steinfeld, or if she doesn't sign the contract, then whoever they get in the role, though it seems like Hailey's going to sign the contract. It seems that whoever plays Kate Bishop is going to be Hawkeye. Because again, they have not called Jeremy Renner that name at all. Go back and watch the movies. I promise you, it doesn't happen. So, it's interesting that this series is called Hawkeye because that means somebody's going to be holding that moniker. And since they haven't done that with Jeremy Renner yet, the rumor amongst the nerds who are kind of more in the know than the news outlets is that the Kate Bishop is going to take up the mantle and they will call Kate Bishop Hawkeye, which is really kind of an interesting way to go, being as Jeremy Renner is an established presence in the MCU, and very likely his contract is coming up and he doesn't want to play Hawkeye forever, even though, again, they don't call him Hawkeye. He doesn't want to play the role forever, so he's got to pass it off eventually, so it just makes sense that he would pass it off in the series, right? It's gonna be a thing. I honestly would be surprised if they didn't do this. So then the last piece of news we have, again, is casting. I know, it's a lot of casting, and I try to not do casting announcements, but this one's significant because it has to do with Gillian Anderson, and who has more freaking nerd cred than Scully? Gillian Anderson has joined season 3 of The Crowne. She will be playing Margaret Thatcher. Interesting. Love Gillian Anderson. She's kind of a great actress, even if only in nerdy things, but The Crowne is a different kind of nerdy thing. So, yeah, we're moving on. Next, we're talking about movies, and in movies, the first thing is the Suicide Squad. We got another undisclosed role casted in Peter Capaldi, who was in Doctor Who. So crazy. Who the heck could he be playing? We know it's not King Shark, even though one of my sources, every time they have a casting announcement, is he going to be King Shark? No, they've already freaking announced who's going to be King Shark, and it's not Peter Capaldi. Also, in randomness that has to do with the Suicide Squad, Pete Davidson has confirmed that he's going to have a little cameo in the Suicide Squad. Very likely not going to be one of the villains that makes up the Suicide Squad, but, I mean, maybe he's the one they kill off to give it stakes? Maybe, I don't know. So next we're talking about The Batman, and this one's really weird to me because I thought it had already happened, but Matt Reeves has officially finished his script for the movie. Didn't we have this conversation once already? Hasn't this already happened? I feel like when it did, though, just to kind of cover my butt, when it did happen, it hadn't been approved by Warner Brothers. Like, it had just been, all right, I'm done. This is everything I want to put in this movie. And then he took it to the producers, and they were like, maybe we can trim the fat here, maybe we can add my girlfriend there kind of stuff. And so now it is official, been selected, and this isn't outlined from my sources anywhere, but everyone just keeps saying, he's done with the script, he's done with the script. He said he was done with the script a few months ago, so what the heck is this announcement? Which, again, leads me to believe he's done, and it has been approved by the powers that be, so they can now get into actual production on the movie. So there's that. Speaking of going into production, Production Weekly is reporting that Matrix 4 will go into production early February of next year. That's awesome. We're getting that much closer. So that means they're scouting and stuff like that. They're in pre-production right now, finishing scripts and so on and so forth. And then our last piece of movie news is a reboot that has been confirmed. So I was hearing rumors. I was hearing that this was maybe brewing somewhere. Tank Girl is very potentially going to be getting a reboot in the theaters. And that was the rumor for a while. The reason I only dismissed it as a rumor was because Margot Robbie was rumored to be the one doing the reboot. Not just potentially going to be Tank Girl, but also producing the movie. It seems, though, that Alan Martin, one of the co-creators of the comic book, has come out and acknowledged that, yes, in fact, Margot Robbie has purchased the production right, or has purchased the movie rights, rather, optioned the movie rights, I believe is the proper term, for Tank Girl, and is looking to make it an actual thing. Also, according to Martin, this has been going for a few months, so it seems they're already well into pre-production for this. If they can get a proper green light from a studio, I don't know what studio owns the rights, who they have to put it out through, but this could become a thing. Margot Robbie could be the next Tank Girl. And I just recently rewatched Tank Girl. I feel like there's a lot of room to grow. Not that it's a horrible movie, but it's also not a great movie. The only reason anyone would call this movie great, the original movie great, is because they have crazy nostalgia glasses and just really love the character, which is fine. I'm not trying to poop on your parade, but a better movie could be made. So I feel like this isn't a bad reboot situation. Now let's talk about gaming. And this one is going to turn into a bit more of a meta conversation about gaming, but the news piece has to do with Apex Legends. Apex Legends just announced that they will be releasing physical copies of the game. That's right. The free game that you have downloaded to play online exclusively. There's no single player. Well, technically there is a single player option. You can play by yourself without a team, but you still are reliant on the fact that you have to be online with 60 other people. Well, they're going to press physical versions of this game. There's going to be 2 different versions, and in each version, the way they're justifying the price, and the price is going to be $20. It will release in October, or on October 18th. And again, to justify that $20, they're going to be giving us some exclusive skins, some and that's about it. Also you will get in-game currency. That in-game currency will allow you to purchase other skins and unlock characters if you haven't unlocked Octane, or I really can't think of the other characters' names off the top of my head right now because I haven't played Apex in like a month. But yeah, so if you haven't unlocked one of the 3 unlockable characters in game, then that money will go towards that. But I don't understand how they're expecting to make money with this. Yes, I understand people will spend a couple of bucks to buy a fancy skin. By and large, though, I feel like most people play this game for free and unlock stuff as they can because it's strictly superficial. So that's the part of the news that becomes a little more meta. The conversation that becomes a little bit more meta is: do you guys feel like it's going to be worth $20? Also, to expand this, is gaming, when you have a free game, is there a way to monetize that through physical media, or is the only way to monetize that through DLC? So that's the question I pass off to you guys. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. And then again, the stuff outside of TV and movies is kind of limited. We have no comic books news for this episode. Many apologies. That is the end of the episode. What did I miss? Because I know there's going to be something. What should we talk about in the next one? Let me know in the comments down below. If, though, you want to go deeper into the conversation, jump over to the website, generallynerdy.net. That is the place that you can get all of the freebies and all of the links to everything else. Or go to patreon.com/generallynerdy to support the channel a little more directly. Every little bit helps. I keep saying this, and it's going to happen, so I'm going to keep saying it until it does happen. The Patreon is due for an overhaul, so get in now before the overhaul happens, and then everything changes up there, because it's going to change. I'm working on some ideas that for exclusive paywall content to go up on the Patreon, so jump in now before all that happens so you can get in on the ground floor effectively. And if you are new to the channel here, then subscribe. If you like the episode, then let me know that, or otherwise is an option as well. If you're falling behind in your nerd news and you want to catch up, then there's a box right there probably to click and do that. You can click or tap, check out all of the other nerd news that we've been talking about right here on the channel, or there's another box that takes you other places. But before we go, always remember, guys, that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.